Hey, friend, if you're not writing your story, then you're just the character in someone else's. Let's talk about how to have main character energy. Stay tuned. I'm Ashley White, the host of Joy on the Journey podcast, a weekly podcast all about defining, finding, and maintaining joy on the journey of life. Every week, I have the blessed opportunity to introduce to many of you and reintroduce to some women who are making an impact on the world. Today's guest is a super special one. Her name is Casilya Smith. She is a multi-published author, educator, photographer, and founder of No Sis, No Suffering in Silence. And she is the co-creator and host of Storytime Chill. And now, the president of Book Seal LLC. Sis is out here running things, okay? Booked and busy. Seal, we are so happy to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy.
I'm listening to you talk about me, and I'm like, oh, that's me.
All the things you. Absolutely. All the things. And very, very true. So we start the podcast asking every guest to give their definition of joy.
Yes, okay. I think, honestly, joy is a choice. I think that we already have it deep inside of us. I think that it's just untapped if we choose for it to be. So, for example, every day I wake up, I can choose to tap into the things that's going to get me to that joy. Or I can choose another path. I can choose to feel how I feel or complain or, why this, why that. Or I could choose the path of joy. So I do think that joy is a choice. And we already have it. We just have to tap into it.
Yeah.
So
when did you come to that point of realizing, hold on, I got to choose this for me?
I would say on the other side of depression and grief that I was dealing with the last, I would say, few years, since about 2019, through, of course, therapy, through, of course, committing to my spiritual walk and my relationship with God, I realized that I was more survivor than victim.
Ooh.
I realized that I had a lot more power and control over my life and over my mood and over the things that were manifesting in my life than I gave myself credit for. And so it was through a lot of heart work. I always like to say heart work is hard work. But it was through that journey to where I was like, you don't have to be sad every day. Some days are going to be tough. We're not going to pretend that every day is just everything and unicorns and rainbows and glitter. It's not. Life gets hard, but you don't have to choose to be the victim of life every single day. That's not the story that I would have written for myself. So I knew that I had to shake shake myself out of it and just choose the opposite path, which is joy. So yeah.
And you said you had to write something different, change the narrative about yourself.
Yeah.
You talk about therapy and your faith walk. So let's get into your creative and narrative writing. I tell everybody I stalk my guests because I am very, very curious about women that inspire others, where they get their sense of inspiration from. And recently you did an interview with Canvas Rebel, and you stated that everything you do aligns with your creative vision and your natural born gifts. So as someone with so many natural born gifts, how have you learned to identify them and apply them to the appropriate season that they need to be applied?
Honestly, I started to shut up.
Wow.
I needed to be quiet. There were certain things when I think about gifts, and as a former educator, I would always identify. I'm like, oh, this one's special, or this one's really good at this, because I had those same educators for myself growing up. Writing always came natural to me. storytelling. If someone said, okay, let's talk about a time you found a dog on the side of the road and he had no home. I'm like, oh, I got a story for that. Like, I can really tell this story and draw people in. And so it was something within me that would always create and tap into that imagination. It just always came to me. I remember being a young girl, music is something that really drives my creative expression. It's like I could listen to a song that's like maybe 90s R&B, get you like, love, and feel like that. All I would have to do is set the mood, and I could just create a vision or a narrative based on that emotion from the song. And so that always came natural. But I will say, Ashley, I hid my writing for a very long time.
Wow, okay.
Okay, I've been writing since I was younger. I didn't become a published author until 2016. And that was kind of like by force. I had a friend to call me and say, enough. Like, your writing is too good for you to keep keeping it to yourself. But I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want people to truly see me because I had gotten so good at masking. I had gotten so good of, oh, everything's just amazing. Everything's great. I'm so happy. While in the inside, my heart was breaking. While in the inside, I was dealing with so much trauma back home, And so it was that push to where it was like, you can't hide. Like, this is your gift. This is what you're supposed to be doing. To where I was able to really just accept my purpose. I already knew what I was supposed to be doing. And that's why I say you have to just shut up. You have to stop convincing yourself that your plans for yourself is different from God's plans. Like, he's already told you. He's already given us I always say he likes to leave little breadcrumbs. He never gives us the whole loaf of bread. Yeah. We know that because if we knew the whole story, we'll be like, no, like, I don't want that part of the story. Right. But he does drop little crumbs here and there. And he had already told me when I was a little girl, I knew what I was supposed to be doing. I just was like, I wanted my voice to be louder than his. I was like, no, I don't want that for myself. I'm going to go in this direction. So I went through all these detours and all of these delays just to end up right where he wanted me anyway. So I had to be quiet.
That is so good because silence is scary.
Yeah.
Especially in this world. And I think this is why so many people struggled during the pandemic, because the silence was so almost deafening. Mm-hmm. Because you didn't have that outlet of distraction.
No.
Where you had to sit with yourself and really sit with God. And in that slowdown, you then have a choice. Mm-hmm. Am I going to keep resisting what I know for sure about God and about myself? Yeah. Or do I give in and then receive all the promises that God has been trying to give me
this whole time,
but I've been so resistant to? Mm-hmm. So as a creative, how was the pandemic and that season of isolation? How was that for you?
I think it was necessary. I speak with one of my my co-hosts, Valerie, of Storytime Chiller. She's also a co-author of one of my books. We speak about this all the time. My 2020, like the pandemic of my life, happened way before 2020. So I lost my best friend. Just to give some context, I lost my best friend, my college best friend, to gun violence in 2013. My mom transitioned very suddenly. Literally just talked to her at lunch break. By 5:30, she was deceased. Aneurysm. And so that was 2019. So my pandemic, like my turmoil, was way before 2020. So when 2020 came, I say it was necessary because I was still operating out of just habit. Like, I have bills, I have a son, I have to keep going, I have to keep producing. There's no breaks. There's no time to heal, And so when 2020 happened and it was like a forced pause and a forced reset, I was like, thank you, God. Because I had been literally crying out for just a moment to rest. Wow. I just need to process. I just need to be able to sit still. And of course, I didn't think that, I didn't equate that, but it was somewhere in 2020 to where I was like, this is the break I prayed for.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that is when I birthed Storytime Chill with Val and Seal. And that's one of our web shows for black and brown children's book authors. And so I was like, there's a way that we can still connect even though we're in this remote world. And God literally deposited that vision. My vision for Dear Queen, which is one of my children's books, and my vision for Pass the Hot Sauces, which is one of the books I wrote with Valerie Reed.
I love the title.
Pass the Hot Sauce. It's real talk for teens. That came during the pandemic. And so I would just be sitting there, not looking to produce, but God would just deposit. And I'm like, woo, okay. Deposit. Oh, okay. Like, I hear you. But I needed that. Had I been operating in my day-to-day, routines and just going from one thing to the next, I don't think that I would have had that time to create. So.
Yeah, that's so good. I have the same experience. Many folks know the podcast started out of my grief journey, mourning the loss of my grandmother. But prior to the pandemic, life was just go, 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 go. And being told, literally and figuratively, sit down, you then began to reevaluate the things that I was filling my life with. Was it a necessity? Or was it just I felt pressure to fill my life with all of these things and people? Ego, I wanted to be needed, I wanted to be wanted. Self, I didn't want to miss out on, oh, we doing this, okay, well, I can do. Neglecting myself. And so now I find myself in a very similar, interestingly, trying to adjust to now things have ramped back up. You're losing all the lessons.
Do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when that self-talk comes in. It's like, okay, Ashley, okay, Casilya, you've been here before.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Pause. Even with opportunities like this, which I'm so grateful for. And I'm a reader, obviously,
Yeah.
I'm a reader, but I'm reading this book now called Anti-Time Management.
Oh.
Along with another book called The Essentialist. And so in these books, it basically talks about how before you say yes to the invite, to the opportunity, to the meeting, pause and weigh the trade-offs. What do I lose? Because it's always a trade-off, whether it's time, whether it's capacity, whether it's, finances, whatever it may be, time with your little ones, your husbands, your spouses. What's the trade-offs?
Yeah.
This is a great opportunity. Are the pros of me saying yes to this, does it outweigh me turning this opportunity down? And so I'm learning, even with picking up the phone, especially if it's not an emergency. I'm like, I've been talking all day. I've been working. Is this essential for me to do this or add this on right now, or say yes to this call, yes to this invite, yes to this opportunity? And so I think that is also what I learned from the pandemic, but also am trying to reinforce in my life. Before you say yes to everything, because you've been everything to everybody for so long, they don't know how to function.
Yeah.
When you say no or not right now. So I'm again trying to keep this power that the pandemic taught me, and I'm trying to stay in control of things. And again, like when you were talking, I was like, that self-talk. You have to be your inner voice and be like, nope, you're doing it again. Like, stop, pause, think about this. So. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
It's a lot
those
of
two
intentionality.
Books, yeah, those two books will be in the description. They're in my Amazon cart right now. They're not, but they will be, because that is so important. Because we can control a lot of things, but we don't get any more hours. And so we literally have to be wise about and good stewards of our time.
Yes.
And taking care of ourselves and our families, yes, but making sure you got the time to do that.
Yeah.
And
is it a God decision or is it a Casilya decision? I have to ask myself, does God want me to do this, or is it that I want to do this? Because 9 times out of 10, half the stuff are distractions that I'm about to fall for. Like, I am about to literally distract myself once again.
Okay, you just really in my business. And
so we're in each other's business today.
I mean, and it's interesting you said that, because being fully transparent, TikTok is a distractor for me.
It is.
Okay, and so recently they rolled out this whole thing where you can put your time, how long you want to be on before they send you a message, and your bedtime. Hey, okay, now you said to us that you were going to be asleep we're reminding you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's being mindful of, okay, now they have a tool, you have a tool. Will you
Mm-hmm.
work the tool,
Mm-hmm.
and not just be a consumer of content, and especially as someone who produces?
Yes.
Am I spending more time consuming other people's content than I am making my own?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is the struggle that I am at right now. And so
Yes.
I want to ask, in 2016, you coined the term heal, deal, and
Oh, yes.
elevate. Can you define the intended impact of the term and whether it's evolved over the
Oh,
last several
wow.
years?
I honestly, and I say it's random, but obviously God doesn't have surprises. It's like He knows, But I was actually doing a Facebook Live at that moment, and I was actually talking about my best friend that transitioned in college, and I don't know what I was saying. I would have to try and see if Facebook even has that live, but in it, I just said like we have to be intentional about healing, dealing before we can elevate, and people in the comment section was just like, oh my gosh, like that is so right, like amen. And I was like, heal, deal, elevate. And that really is, I feel like, the order operation
Mm.
in so many of our journey, whether we like to recognize it or not. Most of us want to just elevate,
Yeah.
and I want to bring all my junk and my toxic ways and my baggage and the skeletons with me, and when you get to the top, everything crumbles down and you wonder why. Like, we have to heal the past. Like that little Casilya, she has to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And if she's hurting and bleeding all over the place, that's ruined opportunities, ruined connections, ruined relationships. So healing, I feel, is always first, and it's continuous. There's never really a finite place of healing. It's always a journey. And then dealing with the current cards that you've been dealt with. Like, now that we're 10 into the past, now we have to, with our toolkit, with our coping skills, with what we've learned from the past, we have to apply it to what's in front of us and use that to drive and set us up for success as we elevate. So it's become like a movement and a tagline, and you'll see it like on my website and different things. But it just came out of me just talking candidly to my Facebook Live audience back in 2016.
Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing.
yeah.
Um, we've talked about this earlier offline, but one of the reasons we met was we have several mutual friends. So
Yeah.
shout out to Shalia and Jasmine for connecting us, and you've helped them to birth their vision creatively. Um, Jasmine said to me that in one particular session, you said to her that every person has a responsibility to tell their story.
Yeah.
How did you learn this?
Oh, wow. I think it was hindsight. I reflect a lot, you know. Um, and when I was writing, for example, Dear Queen and Dear King, those are both children's books. Um, it came from a place of pain. Dear Queen, for example, it talks about like self hate you have as like a black girl. Me being a dark skinned girl, especially, growing up in the 90s, it's just like, people weren't celebrating dark skinned girls like that. It was you're pretty for a dark skinned girl. Oh,
Mm.
you're smart, but put me down with this friend. This the yellow bone, this the red bone. That was just the way it was, especially here in Texas.
Mm.
And so the world taught me how to hate myself.
Wow.
I was rejected. It was disgust. It was just like, and so with that, when I started to write these books, I put myself in a position of, if I could be the person that I needed when I was younger, what would I say to that person?
Wow.
What would I say to that little girl? What would I say to that little boy? What would I say to that teenager, to that woman who's grieving? And that's what I do with all of my books. And so with that, that's the impact that I have. It's just like I try to be the voice to who these people need. And so with that comes looking in hindsight. I'm like, had I not gone through that as a little girl, would I have this story to tell? So my responsibility, God wants me to pour back, pay it forward to these little girls so they don't have to go down that long, dark path like you did.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to reach the point to where they're looking for the world to love them, or for men to tell them things that God has already told us about ourselves. We're fearfully and wonderfully made. We need to believe that early on. We need to hear that. We need to see that. And so, yes, there's a responsibility to talk about your pain when you're ready, with God's even before the interview. I always pray. I'm like, God, give me the words that you would have me to say, to reach the people that you need me to reach.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I feel like our responsibility is to share our stories because somebody on the other end of that is needing that hope. They're needing that encouragement. You never know what people are going through, but because they heard that you made it to the other side, or you're dealing with it, or you're on this spiritual journey with God and God's allowing you to overcome, that gave them just enough gas to fill their tank to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely, it's our responsibility. Yeah.
So is that where No Sis,
Oh,
is that where that was birthed? And can you share?
yes. So no sis, no suffering in silence. Right now it's a virtual group. This also came about in the during the pandemic. I was like, we need places and spaces to connect. This actually was birthed after my mom transitioned. We didn't know immediately that it was an aneurysm. It was, again, I was like, wait a minute. I just talked to her at noon on our lunch break. Like, what happened between then and now? And it wasn't until the following week where we got the autopsy results, and I was looking like at the messages of her phone, and she had been calling out to work sick a lot, and I'm just like thinking back, like what did I miss and where did we miss it?
Yeah.
And so I remember talking to one of my good friends. She was checking on me after probably a few weeks after the services, and I was telling her, I was like, I just wish that she had enough strength to speak up and tell us what she was going through so that she didn't have to go through that alone, even if it didn't change the outcome. And I told her then, I was like, no one should have to suffer in silence. And again, God literally, I was like, wait a minute. In no suffering in silence, no sis, that's how it came. It literally came just from that conversation.
Wow. And I love the sis stands for suffering in silence. The no, it's the community, and looking out for one another and being there, being present. I think that's so important that we have a village of women that are going to say, no, I got you.
Yeah.
You can be honest. You can be transparent here. This is your safe place.
Yeah. In our meetings, we always start out with, anytime we fellowship or have book studies or prayer, no matter the event, I always ask them to start off by saying, like, how are you feeling, without saying I'm okay and I'm fine. Because I feel like that is our automatic response no matter what we're dealing with. Someone asks you, oh, how are you today? Oh, I'm good. I'm okay. I'm fine. You just had a whole mascara running session before you walked in here today. So really, how are you? And it's okay. It's amazing if you are really good. But if you're not, I want to know that too. Yeah. So that you don't have to carry that load by yourself.
Yeah.
So
one of that reminds me, one of my best friends, Jessica, her father, if he asks you how you're doing, you're not allowed to say good or fine. He said, because there's so many words in the English dictionary that you can use to describe. Stretch yourself. How are you really doing?
Yes.
Tap into those emotions and the wellness. How are you? Much of your life and much of your life's work is helping others, helping others heal, helping others birth their vision. Why is this important to you?
It's because I didn't have it. I've always been a person that what I didn't have, I want to give. And that takes a lot of strength. It's a large call. No sis was because I did not have that village, that support system after my mom transitioned. Yeah, there were a few calls, here and there. But when I looked around, it was just me, So, and I was like, man, I show up for everybody. Like, I'm that friend. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, what I'm going through, I'm there. And in a moment like that, I was just like, wow, it's empty. It's lonely here. And so when I birthed No Sis, and just like anything that I do, I'm like, what would I have wanted? I try my best to provide what I feel everybody deserves. Everybody deserves a sisterhood. Everyone deserves a village. Everyone deserves for someone to say, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're capable. So I just try to provide those spaces. God put that in me. I've always been that way, to just see how I can help somebody else. And so, like I said, even when it's hard for me, I'm going through my own things. I'm like, but you still got capacity to still be there for somebody else. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for recognizing that in order to make things better, you have to be the change agent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it pushes you, and it serves in a capacity of if I can help heal you,
Yeah.
then a part of me is healing as well.
Absolutely.
And recognizing that condition, so
Yep.
recognizing that connection. So thank you
Of
so much.
course. Of course.
So, as someone that is constantly helping, I got two questions,
Mm-hmm.
but this first one is, as someone that is constantly helping others birth vision, how do you not get disappointed when others aren't like, God gave you that and you just sitting on it? Like, how do you not get disappointed in folks that may not take your expert advice or gift?
Mm, I mean, I have been disappointed in the past, but again, through therapy, a lot of time with God, I've learned that I can only live my life.
Mm.
And if my hope is that it inspires you to meet your maximum potential. I'm like a no excuses. People continue to say, how do you do it? After everything you go through, everything you've been through, how are you still accomplishing? How are you still helping other people with this positive impact? And so I've learned to not be disappointed, but just to lead by example. And again, may that inspire you. I'm always going to pray for you, even if you don't take my advice. Even if you're like, oh, I'm content, I'm comfortable. But I see that you can really, like, God has his hands on you. Like, he's trying to do something with you, but you're just sitting on it. I just try to lead by example. And a short story, one of my best friends, also met her in college. Shout out to Ashley. I call her Cools.
Oh, I like that. That's
yes,
nice.
yes, Ashley's. And so we were just talking the other day, and she was just like, "You literally just motivated me to just stop with the excuses and to get this certification, get study, do what I need to do." And I told her, I was like, it's not going to be hard. It is going to be very challenging days. You might want to cry. You need to close the closet door, the kids outside, and you need to scream real quick and get back to it.
Mm-hmm.
But she had to come to that realization based off of how she was seeing me continue to persevere. I didn't force it on her. I just kept living my life, doing what God told me to do. And again, my prayer is that it impacts or inspires you to do what God is telling you to do as well. So, yeah.
So I have two questions. Really, I got about three questions.
Uh-huh.
But because everything you're saying is triggering light bulbs. So, first question off of that is, if someone has this God-given vision and they're like, oh, okay, God, I hear you, but I don't know. What would you say as a writer and as a producer of content is the first step when you know for sure God is giving you something? How do you move from okay to okay, I'm doing this?
Write it down. That's the first thing. I have journals everywhere, and they serve different purposes, and some are just, I just need them just in case God, again, deposits something in me. First thing is to write down exactly what God said. I also feel, and this is something I had to learn, just because he gives you the vision does not mean that he wants you to activate it right now. So he's just giving you a preview. Like, I need you to know this is where I'm taking you. He's also going to give us the next step. So one, you have to write it down, write exactly what you heard God say. All right. And then you have to sit and wait until he gives you the next step. So that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You have to make time to just be quiet and sit with him. He's going to guide you. He may connect you with someone else. Me and my co-host and co-author Val, we met because God spoke to her. We were teaching at the same school at the time, and we knew each other in passing, but God told her, you're going to host a writers workshop to help aspiring authors. You're going to host a workshop. That's all he told her. Time had passed. The next instruction he told her, talk to Casilya. And she was like, she tells the story better than me because he talked to her, but I'm going to just tell it since she's not here. She was like, we speak, but I don't know her. Talk to her. And literally she saw me in the morning, and she was like, "Hey, come to my room when you have a chance. Like, I want to talk to you about something." And I don't know. I think as teachers, we were in middle school, teaching middle school. Things got crazy, and it had been like a week. And she was like, "Oh, don't forget." I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll come right now." She asked me. She was like, "Hey, I had this vision for this writers workshop. Would you be interested in partnering with me? It's okay if you say no, but you know." And I was like, "Absolutely." And we started planning, and from that, we had a book come out. Storytime Chill was birthed. We have a second book that we're working on. It's the opportunities have been like limitless.
Mm-hmm.
But it started with the first instruction. She wrote down the vision. Say write it out, make it plain. God gave her the next instruction, who to talk to. And I was able to pour into her from my experience and my expertise. She was able to provide me her expertise, and it became just this beautiful thing.
Mm.
So write it down, sit long enough for him to give you the next step, or connect you with who's going to give you that next step. That would be my advice.
Oh, thank you. And I think rooted in both of those pieces is obedience.
Mm-hmm.
Is one, being obedient to what God has told you to do,
Yeah.
but then actually doing the thing that God has told you to
Fully.
do fully.
Because partial obedience is still disobedience.
Mm.
Because she could have very well did the writers workshop, but I'll do it with Jessica because I know Jessica. I don't know Casilya. And maybe the workshop would have been okay, but would this miraculous path of just accomplishments we've been able to birth together come from that?
Mm-hmm.
No. But you would have implemented the writers workshop, but it may have ended there had you not fully committed to being obedient. So yeah, full obedience.
Is there something that you look for in your authors as you are partnering with them? It's like, oh, I see this thing. I know that together we can reach your end goal.
Yeah. I look for a few things. One, of course, I will help anybody, but my main clientele are African American women and men. I think that we don't have enough resources, so I try to provide those, be that resource for those aspiring authors. But two, it's just a story. I don't like surface. I just want to put out a book. Okay, I can help you, but is there a story there? Like, what's the impact? Like, who's going to be helped because you told this story? And I usually can gauge just from like our consultation or our first initial meetings if it's the right fit. But like I said, some people are not writers. They have the story, but they don't know how to tell it. And so I will do a lot of the writing for them on their behalf. We'll kind of like team up. Or some people have like a gist of their story, but they want to enhance it and bring it to life. Then I'm able to work with them in that way. But I have to look for the end goal, like the final destination of the story, like who can be impacted and whose lives can be changed if this story is told. And if there is something in there, some type of impact that's below surface, not superficial, then I want them as my client. So they have to be like me in a sense,
Yeah, like
there has to be something there,
Oh, thank you for that. And then my final question off of the question about 5 questions ago.
Yeah.
As someone that is always seeking to pour out and always inspiring others and encouraging others, how is your cup remaining full?
That's learned behavior. That is learned behavior, because for the longest time I was depleted and still trying to pour from like scraps of that corner of a ounce that's in there. I was still trying to pour that. But again, it was therapy, it was God, and it was the two together. I think that had I just isolated just therapy without God, I probably wouldn't have been able to have this in my toolkit, but I needed both to happen in parallel. And so in therapy, I remember one specific activity that we did together, and it was basically to write down all of the things that I value.
Ooh.
Okay. Not anyone else's expectations, not what is politically correct. What are the things that I value, the things that make me fulfilled? And eliminate all the things that don't align with that. That was hard for me because that was a lot of things. Ashley, I had this list. I'm like, these are the things that I value. These are the things that make my heart full. Like, this keeps me going. And then I had this long list of things that she's just like, So if it doesn't align with what you value, and it could be people too. If it does not pour into you, if it does not fulfill you, why are you still?
Mm.
And I had to sit with that. I canceled 2 sessions after that because I just needed to process.
Ma'am, I'm not ready to keep talking to
I
you right
said,
now.
wait a minute. But again, she shifted the ownership
Yeah,
back
absolutely.
to me. Your cup
Absolutely.
does not have to stay empty. Your cup does not have to feel depleted. You don't have to be burnt out. You don't have to be drained. You're choosing that for yourself. So, yeah, it was learned. I had to learn it. I had to have someone sit me down and tell me, it's you. And I'm like, okay, it's me.
Oh, sometimes you ask somebody a question and you're fully ready. You've anticipated what they're going to say. I have done several of these interviews, and I ask that question a lot, especially to women. Um, and so I am anticipating your answer.
Uh-huh.
There's nowhere in my record book that I would have been prepared for being clear about what your values are.
Mm-hmm.
Being very, very clear about who you are, what you stand for, what you want your life to represent.
Yeah.
And then being willing to cut off and eliminate those things that don't align.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That is a mindset shift. That is a break free and a breakthrough
Yes.
for me. And I can imagine for those watching and listening of saying, one, what do I value? What are the things that are my core, to my core,
Mm-hmm.
this is who I am.
Yeah.
And then secondly, these are the things that I've just been doing that I'm comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
I really like
That
this
people expect
person,
me to.
that they expect of me, that I expect of other people, but really don't align with who I am. And being willing to move forward and take ownership
Oh,
of it.
yeah.
Ah, sis.
I'm saying. But which basically you have to have a vision for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a vision for yourself. And the things that you do, the way that you spend your time, the people that you spend the most time with, that you interact, that you allow in your space, and vice versa, everything should align with the vision that you have for yourself. And without a vision, where are we headed?
Yeah.
Without a vision, you're just out here letting life have its way with you. And that's like a dangerous place to be. I've been there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just whatever happens, whatever, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah, blah. And God's like, mm-mm.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This is the vision. And I think that's, again, obedience, saying yes to God,
Mm-hmm.
and let everything else fall where they may. But your values is where it starts. The vision that you have for yourself, that is where where it starts, and that can only come from the source. So
You have been preaching right today.
yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming this way and helping us, inspiring
Yeah.
us. The final segment,
Yes.
as you are praying and seeking the Lord for vision, for direction, for greater clarity,
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask, and I'm so excited about it. Where can you see yourself in 5 years? You, your businesses, your brand, all those things.
Yeah, God has been, again, he's been alluding to a few things, but when I'm thinking about 5 years, I still feel like that's short term, even though it kind of seems long term, because time just goes by so quickly. And he shifts things suddenly. It's just like, whoa, you're really doing this in my life. So I would say 5 years from now, my hope is to actually have a brick and mortar. I want to have a full publishing shop to where I can print the books. People can come in, and so I don't have to outsource for those items, but I can actually have a local place here in Houston to be able to provide those services. So for my business, that is my goal, to have an actual brick and mortar physical location to where people can come in and from start to finish get creative coaching, writing coaching, consultations, illustrations there, book printing, shipping, all of that in one place. So even if I get the start, like found the venue, found the location in 5 years, that would be a win for me. But I know there's a lot of planning that's involved. But I know God's going to connect the dots on my behalf. I just need to listen. So That's next. And then I'm hoping for a book tour. I've been blessed and fortunate to, I transitioned from education a few years ago, and now I'm in project management for a child welfare tech company. And we have unlimited PTO, and it's such a blessing because I
Wow.
prayed for flexibility. And the position I'm in now, to be able to travel, to say, hey, can I just have 2 weeks, or can I have the next few Fridays off, is such a blessing because I do want to go beyond Houston and be able to connect with little boys and girls and women and youth around the country and be able to pour into them outside of just these boundaries and zip codes. So that is my hope. Book tour for sure, city near you, and full publishing, a print shop in operation, physical mortar here in Houston. So,
Oh, I literally just got chills.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's a
literally
large
just
call,
got chills.
Ashley. It's a large call. But God, He again, it's just like He's been blowing my mind. I'm just like, what are you? You really chose me,
Mm,
and I think that I don't think there's a greater love than that.
mm.
Like out of all the people, all the little brown girls around here, you chose me. I gotta follow through. I have to. So, yeah.
That y'all,
Don't, don't.
that's
Yeah,
so beautiful.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you for sharing your heart. Thank you for sharing your passion and your purpose. And thank you for man, you got me.
Ashley.
Um, thank you for being you,
Yeah,
the fullness of who you are.
thank you. Huh. Yeah.
Thank you. So if someone um, needs to get in touch with you, they have been given a vision, and they're like, I need help going from, I wrote it down, but now what I do?
Yeah.
How can they
What's
get in
next?
touch with you?
Yes. Okay. So on social media, really everything, social media and my website. My website is sealthewriter.com. So that's SIL, thewriter.com. And then Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, everything else is also Seal the Writer. So you can find me there as well. If you want to email me directly, info@sealthewriter.com. And I love to talk, as you can see. So don't be shy.
Absolutely. Y'all drop in the comments your favorite takeaway of this video. Her contact information will be listed in the description. Let her know how she has blessed you, how she has challenged you to be clear about what your vision and your value, what your visions and your values are, and how they align to everything that you're doing. Get in touch with her. Thank her for her time and her fullness
Yeah.
here today. And be sure to subscribe while you're there. Okay, hit the subscribe button so that you will be sure not to miss an episode. But until we gather again every single Thursday, may God increase your joy, grant you strength for the journey, and give you the courage to tell your story. Bye, friends.